Jim Sciutto is on the line right now. Jim, of course, is the national security correspondent for CNN. He's got a new book out. It's titled The Shadow War, and it's a must-read. You know, you got the G20 coming up now in a couple of weeks in Japan. And Trump, of course, is set to meet with both Putin and Ping. Russia and China, I should say. And according to Jim, there's a war going on right now from under the sea with submarines to space. That is a very dangerous war that we are not doing enough about, and quite frankly, Americans need to know more about. With that said, making his debut on the Bernie and Sid in the Morning Show, here he is, Jim Sciutto. Jim, good morning, pal. How are you?
Hey, great to be on. I grew up listening to WABC. It's nice to be on.
Nice to have you.
You know, as a matter of fact, Jim Sciutto went to the famous Regis High School. You have to be brilliant. That's a scholarship-only high school up on the Upper West Side. Jim Sciutto went there. Right, Jim?
Yeah, it is. I still got the scars, man.
That's very impressive.
Well, he is brilliant. I mean, he's got a big job with CNN. He's a former diplomat. He served, even as the ambassador to China. He served for him. He's done all these things, and he's traveled everywhere, especially when it comes to China and Russia. So he knows what he's talking about in this book, The Shadow War. So I read the book. I heard you talk about it, from submarines to lasers in space. I mean, we all know, of course, about the Russian interference with the elections, right, Jim? But there's a heck of a lot going on every single day between Russia and China that should really have Americans somewhat nervous, yes?
Absolutely. They're fighting on multiple fronts. As you say, folks know about the election interference. They probably know that China is stealing our secrets, private sector, government secrets every day. Like you said, do they know that Russia and China put weapons in space today? 2019, it's already happening. And why? Because they know we depend on space. Our military does, our smart bombs, our drones, nuclear early warning, but also civilian life. We depend on those satellites, so they know if they take them away, they paralyze us. Both Russia and China have deployed quieter, faster submarines that are harder for the U.S. to track. Why does that matter? Because it means they can pop up on our coastline and they carry nuclear weapons. It's about nuclear attack in the event of a war without warning. They're going back to 19th century rules in Europe. Russia has invaded a sovereign European country in Ukraine, still occupies it. China has up and manufactured territory in the South China Sea, in seas claimed by U.S. allies. Why does that matter? Because peace has held largely since World War II by respecting those borders. And then the question is, where do they go next? Does China go to Taiwan? Does Russia start to get into a NATO ally in Europe? This is the thing. And the other part of this strategy is that they calculate what the threshold is for a U.S. response. In effect, what they could get away with without us punishing them to a degree that really hurts. And they've been really smart about that. They're getting away with a lot, and we haven't figured out a way to push back.
Jim Sciutto, yes, the book Shadow War. Now, the Russian economy, Jim, is smaller in size than the state of Texas. Yet, as opposed to China, you say that we should be more worried about Russia than China.
Well, it's interesting. Whenever I ask the Intel folks this question, to be clear, this book is not a political book. I ask guys from men and women from Democratic and Republican administrations. There's a lot of blame to go around, and they're even self-critical. They will say, we missed this threat. But when I ask them consistently, give me your top threats, they always put Russia and China at the top of the list. Iran, North Korea, dangerous, but not on the same scale. When I ask them to tell me who's the bigger threat of Russia and China, what they tend to say in the short term, Russia, because Russia's angrier, more aggressive, it's the declining power, and therefore less predictable and possibly more dangerous. But longer term, China's the real competitor because, as you say, economy on the par with the U.S., massive population, and this is key. Russia just likes to disrupt. Any time they mess with us, it's a zero-sum game. They consider it a win. China's ambition is to be number one.
Yeah.
They want to surpass us.
They want to be us.
And that's why longer term.
Yeah, but when I read the book, I didn't get the impression you thought it was Russia at all. I got the impression you thought it was China, long-term, short-term. I mean, you go into detail in the book about how China basically has stolen us, including F-35s, F-22s, C-17s. They're flying our damn airplanes.
They are. It's one in the chapter. I focus on just one guy, and this is one of thousands of spies like this. But one guy, Stephen Su, he went by, who over the course of 4 years stole a lot of the IP behind the F-35, F-22, C-17, three of the most advanced jets. And today, as you say, you can look them up on the internet.
Yeah.
China has planes that look remarkably like those. And I speak to the former head of counterintel for the FBI. He's great. He's a former cop. He doesn't mince words. He's like, we're aware about 10% of what China's doing. 10%.
Right.
And they're getting away with a lot.
And now China, of course, very aggressive. What if they invaded Taiwan? We have an alliance agreement with Taiwan that if China invades to try to take it back, they think it's theirs, that we will defend Taiwan militarily. Would we ever do that?
It's a great, I got to come back on the show, man. You guys know what you're talking about. Taiwan, when I walk the halls of the Pentagon, Taiwan comes up all the time because they are concerned that that's where China goes next. And it's a question. Would the U.S. go to war to save Taiwan? Would it send U.S. sailors and soldiers to die? And while that is our alliance, China may calculate, because they got away in the South China Sea, that maybe as the U.S. pulls back from the world and we listen to President Trump's rhetoric about pulling back, would the U.S. really go to war? And Russia makes the same calculation about it in the world in Estonia. The NATO allies up in the Baltics there. Right. Would we really go to war there when the president questions the NATO alliance, etc.? Those could be the new fronts in the shadow war, and that's when it gets really, really messy.
Last one, we'll end with the president. You are right. You did say that this is not a political book, and you do hold Democrats. You say Barack Obama didn't do enough with this. You go back to Bush, but you seem particularly irked with Donald Trump, and maybe it's because of the way he speaks about Putin in Russia. Maybe it's because he goes out of his way not to go after them. So even though you say, yes, the last couple of presidents kind of missed the ball on this one too, you really hold Trump's feet to the fire based upon what he says about Russia. Is that fair to say?
It is absolutely fair to say, and don't take my word for it. I went on a submarine under the Arctic. I went on a spy plane over China. I go into the NSA operations centers where they respond to the cyber attacks. I speak to the sub-commanders, the flight commanders, and so on. It's they who are worried about this because they say, we're at war, we need to fight back, we need to push back, and they are desperate for leadership on this. And that's a consistent message, and you need consistent leadership, and they don't hear that. They don't hear that, and that should be a concern for all of us.
There you have it, the proud graduate of Regis High School, the brilliant Jim Sciutto. The book is called The Shadow War, Inside Russia and China's Secret Operations to Defeat America. Get it at Amazon.com or elsewhere. Jim, thank you very much.
Great to be on, guys.
Pleasure.
Great job, Jim Sciutto. Terrific job.